Welcome to an episode of Bargain Saturdays. And this week I decided to take a look at Balto III, Wings of Change, which feels like the odd dog out as far as the Balto movies are concerned. The first Balto movie had a major plot point in that Balto had to learn to accept his mother's side of the family, his wolf side. Balto 2, Wolf Quest Hallelujah, basically had to accept the fact that she was more wolf than she was ever going to be dog, that she was a wolf and just did not know it. Balto 3, on the other hand, is about Cody trying to save his job as a male dog. Quite frankly, it's just not a very interesting plot in comparison to the last two movies. It's much weaker in my opinion, to the point where it's almost questioning. I'm just seriously questioning why it even exists, and it doesn't seem to have a similar plot point thematically with the first two movies about discovering who you really are going on with it. Not to mention, Balto sort of ruins any tension that we could have by pointing out that no matter how well the dog sled team does in this race, there's always going to be a new plane, a faster plane, a better plane that's just going to replace them eventually anyway. Dog sled teams delivering mail was going to be the thing of the past, and airplanes were going to be here to stay. And he was right, I suppose, but it's still, if you're going to basically spell out the fact that the team's going to be replaced eventually anyway, it's sort of hard to get all that invested in them desperately racing to get there first and desperately racing to get back before the plane can show up. In fact, the only reason they win the race is because the plane crashes, which means the team eventually has to go out and save the pilot from certain death, albeit they basically have to be guilt-tripped into doing it, because Balto's the only one that apparently cares enough about people to go out and save a person, even if he's going to take their jobs. Like, he might be taking my job, but you know what? He's a human being. I have to save him. And Cody's like, screw him. He's going to take my job. He can just go and die. Yeah. It's really a great characterization when your secondary character, or meant to be your main character, basically says, let that dirty, sneaking human die out there in the cold. Let him die of starvation or freezing to death. I don't care. He tried to take my job delivering the mail. I guess I can still understand that that's the only job Cody's ever done, the only job he might ever be able to do, really. But still, it's pretty callous to just say, let another sentient human being, or sentient being, die over something like that. I also take problems not only with just the plot, but the introduction of Stella. Stella is basically the goose version of Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, a highly sexualized character whose purpose in this plot is basically to hit on Boris, and to eventually get so upset with him for lying to her about his inability to fly because he's afraid of heights. Yeah, they decided to rip off the joke from the first movie that Muck and Luck can't swim because they're too afraid of water. Polar bears that can't swim, what on earth is that? And they're like, let's rip it off again and have Boris be afraid of heights so he can't fly. I'm like, why on earth did you guys do that? Why even have that as a plot point? The movie already had enough weak plot points as is, so why'd you have to introduce a whole plot thread about Boris being unable to fly? Not to mention it ruins all the jokes that Boris made about the bears in the first movie about being unable to swim. I just don't know why they would do that. I mean, maybe they're hoping people just won't go back and watch the first movie, again, and get reminded that Kevin Bacon was the original voice for Balto, and they couldn't get him to come back for either of the sequels. They couldn't get Jenna's original voice actor back for the sequels either. I suppose they had better things to do, which I suppose isn't unreasonable. Neither of these sequels are as strong as the original movie, even if it does play fast and loose with history. And really, the original Balto does play very fast and loose with the true story of what happened. Saying it's based on a true story is so inaccurate. I'd say it's mostly a fiction. Fiction to the point where the only historically accurate character in the original Balto movie was basically Balto. Everything else was just tacked on to make a more interesting and compelling story. Don't get me wrong, it works better the way it's told now, but there's just a lot of stuff that gets left out, like Togo and all that stuff. It's just sort of disappointing to see a movie based on a true story that couldn't tell the true story more accurately and in a compelling fashion. All in all, I'd say just stay away from Balto 3 Wings of Change. It's just not a very strong movie. And Stella still creeps me out. Having a highly sexualized character in a G-rated movie that's basically meant for a kid's audience is just always creepy to me. Until next time, then. See ya.
First, tell me what's going on.
It's terrible. I'm going on date with gorgeous goose.
Now that is scary.